Hey guys! Cycrafter here. Today I am back once again in Anime vs. Reality, where hopefully today I am going to be finishing off the original Spice and Wolf. Although, based on my notes here, it's 9 whole pages. That's a lot. It's gonna take a while to get through that. So I got an apple or two here to enjoy while doing so. Anyway, so when I last left off, Kraft had just talked to Fruel or Abe. It's a whole thing. But we're moving right on from that conversation into episode 9, where Hollow is upset that Kraft left her alone in the room until dawn, excusing that he was having fun as a trader. Going down the back road, Hollow complains about how narrow it is, but Kraft likes these kinds of areas because of its well-used history, similar to a tool being used often. Kraft doesn't understand Hollow's river version, so she suggests if it's similar to the human soul, which he can see as making sense. It's like, I forget what the river version was. I didn't actually write it down because this is taking a while. Or, these notes took a while already. If they could see Kraft's soul, Hollow says it would be dyed her color, and Kraft says it would be more appropriate to say it's poisoned. Which, yeah, makes a bit of sense. When Kraft asks Hollow what color her soul would be, she says it would be various colors, bit like a rainbow. She mentions how she does have a selfish, possessive desire, and asks if Kraft can sense it and how he would deal with that type of desire. And Kraft's answer is that for difficult problems he couldn't solve, someone else would know the answer easily. He ponders the possibility that Hollow could be suffering from jealousy, but figures the correct answer is that such feelings are impossible to deal with. Hollow says that Kraft only brought up how he wants her to be, calling him idiotic, but not seeing him stop or blush. It's like, yeah, I'm a bit of an idiot. Back out on the main road, Hollow wants to tease him a bit by talking about how many she's had, reminding Kraft how delicate his heart is. Reaching the building Kraft wanted to go to, Hollow says it's back to being back. It's back to bring reality. Wait. Oh, it's back to reality with no more whimsical talk. I don't know how Bring got in that sentence. Kraft says she could go back to the inn and sleep, and she says she wouldn't be counting sheep to fall asleep. And he asks how many before realizing he upset her. And he calls himself a fool to make her happy. It's like, yeah, you don't really ask you don't ask a wolf girl how many sheep she counts. Knocking on the front door, Kraft is surprised when a nun answers. But when Kraft says that Fruel introduced him to Rigolo, I say Rigolo, but it's probably more Rigolo. The nun invites him inside. The two are brought to the study, which is reading materials to the front, guard at the back. Which, honestly, a good combo. Better than, like, party in the front, business, or like business in the front, party in the back. Regular Deidre is glad with their reaction to the very green garden, having heard that Kraft has a strange request for him. Hollow also greets Rigolo with an annoyed energy. She's like, really? You're gonna be the one that helps us? like seriously, you? With greetings out of the way, Kraft asks Rigolo about the legends of Renoze, which surprises Rigolo, along with the fact that Ferrul seems to be lying about Rigolo's appearance and behavior. It's like, yeah, that's an immediate so you can't trust Ferrul if she's lying about someone else's appearance and behavior. But the fact of Rigolo being a difficult person is true because of all the meetings he has refused. Kraft brings up that he's a merchant from outside Renoze and asks if it's okay for them to be talking, but Rigolo says he came at a good time because the 50-man meeting just recently wrapped up. Convenience. When Kraft doesn't react to the information, Rigolo says Kraft isn't letting his guard down since he understands Rigolo was the scribe at the 50-man meeting, meaning he could understand many changing expressions at once. Rigolo reveals that he knows the truth of Hollow's movements, which impresses them. Was it movements? If Rigolo had ill intentions, he wouldn't have said anything, and he states that even if he could understand what people think, he's bad at communicating his needs, which would make him a bad merchant. It's like, oh, okay. We don't need too many merchants in the world. Rigolo goes to the basement to search for the older books Kraft is asking for, and Kraft and Hollow talk about Rigolo's trick, and that Hollow senses that Rigolo is like a child with no ill intentions. With someone like Rigolo by his side, Kraft could live a worry-free life, unlike with Hollow, who is full of ill intentions. I love how they just keep roasting each other. In the basement, Rigolo asks why Kraft is curious about the legends from hundreds of years ago, and Kraft says that Hollow is searching for her origins. Rigolo states that children that come down from the north stay in Renoze for the rest of their life, and there's nothing better than returning to the safety of one's homeland. Hollow and the nun come back with 6 rather, thick books, chunky books to read through. And Kraft offers to take a few off Hollow's hands, which ends up with him holding all 6. It's just like, holy jeez. Rigolo would usually say they have to read the books here, but Ferrul directed them to him. But because Ferrul directed them to him, Rigolo lets him take the books back to the inn to read. Once out of the building, Kraft says it must be nice to be able to wave because she isn't carrying anything. It's like, just the ribbing between these two are so fun at this point. Hollow says men get overexcited when flattered, but Kraft is just frustrated, which makes Hollow happy. It's just like, I get to make you frustrated. At the pub, Hollow makes Kraft buy her a whole pig roast. Whew. That is not something I could handle right now. which has all the guys laughing and impressing, and she impresses them by eating the whole pig herself. She just eats the entire thing herself, like, in front of everyone. It's like, this girl knows how to put away some food. Kraft does tell Hollow off for being gluttonous, but is glad to see Hollow happy and saying it's a nice evening. He jokes that if they keep having nights like this, he'll go bad. To which Hollow says, sweet and salty water. Huh? Back at the inn, Kraft talks to Ferrul about going to another inn for one day, and Hollow's heavy drinking. Harold chimes in about talking to a fur trader from the north to mention there's little snow covering the roads north at the moment. Frill knows the man that knows the north roads Harold was talking about before, and his name is Corkacoos? Corkacoos. Who is staying on the 4th floor. It's like, that is a weird name. Getting Hollow into bed, she seemingly falls asleep quickly, but she holds her hand out to Kraft and knows that something's scary. Kraft stays with her and says everything is going well at the moment, with no difficulties or fights between them. Hollow reveals she's scared that their journey is soon ending, and something else that troubled her if Kraft realizes. Well, like, that will trouble her. Returning downstairs to Ferrul and Harold, Kraft asks if a witch sneezed because it's like time stopped. And Ferrul says it's because she and Harold have nothing to talk about. It's like, yeah, silence. The most deafening thing in the world. Kraft jokes with Ferrul about Rigolow's gloomy face and says she's jealous of Rigolow's special skill. Ferrul mentions that if Kraft were to partner with Rigolow, most merchants would have no chance against them. But Kraft, knowing Rigolow, knows that Rigolow wasn't interested. He was just wanting to stay and read his books. She says that Rigolow's joy in life is to just read these books in that mansion for the rest of his life. Bringing up the garden, Frill says she wouldn't be able to stand the big glass windows. Asking about the details of the meeting, Kraft confirms the meeting is finished, but that's all he knows. It's like, yeah, I'm not here about the meeting. I'm here about the books, like the legends. Kraft asks if she got the details out of Rigolow, but he's worried about her, leaving them curious about how the meeting went. He's more curious about why Ferrell is pursuing the conversation, and says she's looking for a way to make a large profit from the situation. Kraft is right on the money about that Ferrell is also trying to avoid a big loss, so she explains she's trading in stone statues of the Holy Mother. Her profit potential on the statues skyrockets with the church's blessing, and it comes in thanks to the Northern Expedition each year, which was cancelled this year. It's like, oh, this Northern Expedition is just ruining everything. Like, we're really seeing the butterfly effect of that entire choice. However, for Ferrell, she was cut off from the church, and she mentions that the authority of the church has... the authority of the church itself has been eroding. Ferrell is hoping to make a big profit off selling in Renose so she can travel south. She asks if Kraft will lend her some money, or more accurately, would be willing to sell Hollow. Which, when we got to Renose, we were talking about human trading, like slavery stuff. It's like weirdly, like topical back in that time. But it's still pretty dark. And that brings us into episode 10. And Graf wakes up in the bed to Hollow calling his name and tells him to wipe himself off, tossing Graf a fur-covered rag to leave her sweat on him. It's like, really? You couldn't give me a clean towel, you want your scent on me? He explains what happened last night, how they want him to be part of a big business scheme. It's like, yeah, there's this big plan. I don't know if I want to be part of it, but if I am, apparently part of it is willing to sell you, which is crazy. Farrell revealed she learns from an inside contact of the church that the 50-man meeting ended with fur trading with outsiders being allowed on the condition of cash payments only, which outsiders wouldn't have currently. It's like, bruh, way to screw over everyone. This means that if someone can gather a large amount of cash, buy the quality furs, and leave with them to sell before anyone else, even with the customs tax, the profit is 3 times the cost. It's like, whoo, that's a lot of profit. Freud notes that Kraft didn't know Rigolo existed, meaning he doesn't have contacts within Renazé that could lend money. Kraft says he could make the money in another city, but Freud says they have no time to procure funds slowly. While the 50-man meeting was to stop the sale of the furs temporarily, the real truth is that the fur trade is going to bust in Renazé, and the wealthy people want the last stock. It's like, damn rich people want everything for themselves. How dare you? Farrell wants to get as much money as she can to buy as much fur as possible in preparation for a trade war. I don't get what a trade war would be like, but that's apparently why she wants to use Hollow. It's like, okay, what? Oh, there's a bit of bruising in that apple. Damn. She wants to make a fake story about Hollow being the daughter of nobility and sell it for nobility money. Basically, it's identity fraud. Okay. Suddenly, Farrell reveals her full name to be Farrell von Jittersentel Bolland. I need to check how to say that. I'm grabbing the headphones right now just to be like, how do you say that? Yittersenel? Yittersenel. Yittersenel? Okay. That is a wild name in there. Yeah, suddenly Farrell reveals her full name to be Farrell von Jittersenel Bolland, and that she's the 11th head of the Bolland household, which is loyal to the king of Winfiel. Her line is actually fallen nobility who have trouble finding their next meal, with a debt so big they came by breadcrumbs. Frill explains she was bought by an upper-class merchant, and that, with her position, she has the means to do the same with Hollow, which explains why Frill has been watching them recently. Explain the plan more. Frill says the plan isn't to really sell Hollow, that she knows a trading company that will lend them funds for a cut of the profit, that the noble's daughter sale idea is the means and security to do so. Harold chimes in to say this is his last chance to go on the pilgrimage and wants to offer Kraft the inn. Hollow asks why he's hesitating in this deal because Kraft wants to own a store, which she has no right to object to. Kraft answers that Hollow was so against him trading her the entire time while in Renose. And Hollow reveals she's most content when with Kraft and advises him for her own sake, which is making her heartache. She goes over how Kraft used to balance profit and danger and would have accepted deals without thinking of refusing, asking when he lost that nerve, wanting Kraft to be a bit selfish now. Kraft doesn't like the idea of pawning Hollow off like just a bit of cargo. And she goes off about how she sacrificed herself for him back in the Trenny Silver arc, and how that was thanks for his kindness. It's like, bro, you can't pull that. That was so long ago. Hollow asks if there's anything else Kraft's worried about, and he's weary of the plan actually being a trap, and Hollow says just plan a counter to it, recalling what Kraft said back in the Trenny Silver arc. With their discussion over, the two go for breakfast, which is not shown. Like, we do not get to see the breakfast, but I figure no, it's not shown in the opening. Kraft goes to the church and the surrounding buildings, knowing the church seems more like a safe. Offering bread to a homeless guy, Kraft asks him about the church and its influence on Renose. The homeless guy states that Renose Church is the biggest in the region. That they gave out good bread and beans to those lesser off, as well as the bishop passing money around too. He knows of the money detail due to seeing the pretty carriages outside the church and the scraps from dinner. Kraft says that if the homeless guy used that information right, he could return to his original livelihood. However, the homeless guy says that the Lord said, "Blessed are the poor," firing back the question of if merchants could rejoice over a gift of brown bread and 2 bronze coins, because he can. The homeless guy warns Kraft against working with the church, that trying to get on their good side will end up with Kraft being poor. He explains how one guy had long-standing relations with the church, but recently he screamed himself hoarse, and Kraft states he knows that person. Instead of stone statues, the homeless guy believes this person was actually trading in salt, because sometimes some salt spills from the load he takes to the church, knowing it's not of good quality by smell. Kraft returns to the Beaver Pub to talk to the barmaid, who's surprised he came early again, and asks how many merchants have done this, to which Kraft jokingly says many of them because of her beauty. She wonders how many impolite people have thrusted bronze coins at her, Graff says he's going to ask something impolite, but she knows he will. Asking about the 50-man meeting, the barmaid confirms everything Kraft heard from Farrell. When he asks about the church, the barmaid drags Kraft inside to warn him against working with the church as well, allowing Kraft to confirm there is a power struggle going on. It's like, what kind of power struggle could be going on between a... well, anything could be going on between a church and a town. The barmaid explains that the church isn't finding important people from all around and that she had to work 2 full 24-hour shifts because a high-ranking church member was invited. Kraft figures that Renose Church is shoring up their foundations, and the barmaid realizes that Renose Church is serious about their reputation. Talking about where the money is coming from is dangerous to do, and once the church has its eye on someone asking about something, they're soon to leave Renose. So, in a way, that could help in the end. He asks the barmaid if it's okay for her to be telling him this information, but she's just glad to be talking to Kraft privately because Kraft smells of hollow. It's like, huh? Cornering Kraft against the wall, the barmaid says that girls with some confidence will start flirting with him, and that this is the first Kraft is hearing from anyone. This allows the barmaid to figure out Kraft has been traveling with Hollow only recently, and that with her around, other girls have started to get interested, using a wolf analogy to get a point across, which is ironic considering Hollow's a wolf. But she doesn't know. Turns out that Kraft was relaying all that information to Hollow after the fact, and she's focused on teaching the barmaid a lesson on territory, as well as being glad Kraft knows how things work. With all the information Kraft gathered, he figures the church is aiming to establish a cathedral in Renose. If they manage to do so, the bishop goes from being someone who's given ranks to someone that can assign ranks to others, which is why Farrell wants to leave Renose. Even in all that, it doesn't answer why the church ended relations with Farrell, and if Kraft were in the situation, he'd put up with it. Kraft asks what Hollow thinks, just as a general voice, not really her opinion. Hollow asks if he'd change his mind if she begged Kraft in tears, but Kraft knows if he refuses, she'd still be waiting at the inn for him while he works the deal out and returns. She says Kraft will have grown up when he can say that without blushing. Noting how lively Kraft is today, Hollis says that males are best when chasing their prey, while also wanting Kraft to turn her way every once in a while. Somehow this is still episode 10. Oh my gosh, it's nearly 3 pages long. Holler asks what will happen to her if the deal falls through, and Kraft says that since she'll be pawned and if the money can't be repaid, Holler will be sold off somewhere. It's like, oh, that's actually serious. That's a serious thing. If that were to happen, she hopes her next partner would be smarter than Kraft, and Kraft fires back that idiots who can't return money they borrowed deserve sand kicked in their face. Holler states she's helping Kraft because she believes in him, which Kraft already knows at this point. It's like, yeah, no need to state the obvious. Around sunset, Kraft is eager and nervous to talk to Furl, which Hollow calls out, because until recently, Kraft was always putting up a front for Hollow. Hollow recounts when he and Hollow were first traveling around, especially around other people. Kraft would always tense and nervous, be nervous just doing so. Kraft turns it around on Hollow, asking if her tail got edgy when he hangs out around other women now. She talks about how men slowly reveal their inner selves, and in the end say it wasn't supposed to be like this. Kraft says it happens no matter who it is when you're close to someone. Using the giving a caught fish bait analogy, Kraft says it's wrong because Hollow climbed in his cart willingly, saying he should be charging a boarding fee. It's like, why didn't ya? You just let this random lady ride with you for so long that you didn't charge her anything? That's a terrible business right there. I'm eating the bruising. Oh, jeez. Dropping apple cores and everything. Hollow seems a bit stunned and annoyed at Kraft's words, but then says that it's because they've been journeying together that she can hold his hand. Talking about how bards sing about wanting things the way they first met someone, Kraft says if things were to stay the way they met, he'd be too anxious and collapse. Furl asks what Kraft's decision is after his town investigation, and Kraft's merchant instincts make him believe what Furl said is true. He does have one thing that concerns him, and it's the reason Furl fought with the church and parted ways. Furl explains that the bishop of the church likes power and is the one wanting to establish a cathedral and become archbishop. She learned of the bishop's backroom money dealing while searching for interesting business opportunities, and at the time he was dealing in fur using donation money and his own trading company. Bruh, that is highly, illegal stuff. Having your own trading company while also running a church. That is, I feel like that has got to be multiple levels of illegal. Since the bishop is an amateur, Furl offered a two birds, one stone proposition with the stone statues, along with her connections with the archbishop. With this setup, Furl sold processed statues to the city's church and gambled on the bishop and Renose becoming the archbishop, but got betrayed by the bishop after he firmed his foundations. Kraft figures that by keeping Furl around, he'd end up dealing with her ridiculous demands, which he confirms would be true, but instead he decided he wanted to work with a large trading company. Really? Having heard everything he needs to, Kraft decides to go along with the plan, arranging another meeting to discuss plan details. When he shakes Furl's hand, he notices her hand was shaking, which Hollow confirms outside. Frill joins them outside and says that Hollow will fetch 1,500 silver coins, and the three will walk down the street, ready to organize their plan. That was a lot for episode 10. Episode 11 is also looking pretty long as well. It's at least it's nearly 3 pages as well. There's a lot of detail in these episodes. Good thing I have a second apple to enjoy. Kraft, Hollow, and Frill meet with Lutz Erringen, the representative of the Derink Company, who knows Kraft is part of the Rowan Trading Guild. Lord Goldens of Rowan Trading Guild gave the Derink Company a chance to be treated favorably by Renose, which they are. They're willing to pay 2,027 with no handling fee for Hollow, after Frill suggested a price of 2,520 silver, figuring out that the money is for fur trading. Clever guy. However, they don't have the 20 silver to pay out to Kraft and Frill, so instead they'll pay them with 60 Luminone gold, making everyone part of the Derek Company laugh. Lutz says it's an investment, knowing Frill has prepared a way to gain profit from the state of Renose, hoping to make some money themselves. He says Kraft is good fortune, evident by the fact he met up with Frill while in Renose, as well as Kraft's calmness in the face of a big deal, which is important in his business. Frill asks how the money will be transferred, and Lutz notes they'll be buying furs from the Archie Company, and that she has a good eye, wanting to learn her methods. She asks what Kraft thinks, and he says he wouldn't be able to sleep with a sparkling pile of gold coins next to him. Lutz explains how those dealing in large amounts of money tend to get conceited, become demanding, and put on a false composure. He's impressed by how Kraft made owning a massive amount of money sound modest, whilst Kraft stays sharp. Kraft and Frill agree to receive their money right before they make their purchase, making a prayer that their deals go well. Outside, Frill calls Lutz an unpleasant man, while Kraft realizes how small of a merchant he feels when dealing with Lutz. Even so, Frill notes Kraft had some sharp replies that she hadn't heard comebacks before like Kraft. Frill wonders if Kraft is a noble son from a huge company, and sometimes Kraft thinks he is. Apples are so good. Down at the docks, Frill asks Kraft how he and Hollow went, which does catch Kraft off guard, but he answers truthfully about how Hollow was born in the north, but was living south in Paslow. When Kraft passed through, Hollow snuck into his cart and said she wanted to return north, so Kraft has been doing so. Frill says it sounds like something a cheap poet would write and is curious about the complications they had along the way. Kraft says he is unable to discuss them because of a priest as a joke. It's like, okay. Frill does note that Hollow is wearing quality clothing, meaning it must have been a good meeting, with Kraft slyly revealing Hollow bought them for herself. She says Hollow must be nice under the clothes and to keep it down in the in. And Kraft's reaction is of a stomped foot from Hollow. It's like, damn. Frill talks about how terrible the person that bought her was and how in her country the wool trade is booming. The person that brought her was into buying futures, pouring money into them, only for the king to change the policy, making him bankrupt instantly. In response, due to him having more pride than a noble, he gave himself a blood smile on his neck and died. Yeah. I honestly try and word stuff better. Like, I've been trying to shy away from seppuku because seppuku is a very specific type of thing, and the word I use it in place of is also just not a word I can say on internet. So I try and describe it in ways that's like, yeah, that happens to this character, sort of thing. Her wedding ceremony was really gaudy too. Her grandpa crying about how it would be one of the best in Boland family history, but she felt it was more of a funeral. On the upside, she didn't need to worry about food, nor did she have to bear children, and the hidden bones were slipping away money from his purse. It's like, I get to make a bit of money on the side from stealing. Okay. Okay. You do you. Her husband's house and assets were taken away when he went bankrupt, but the money left over allowed Frill to start a business, and her dream is to surpass his company's success and show he was lucky to buy her. It's like, yeah, I gotta show this dead guy up. Frill then states she was jealous of Kraft and Hollow, but wants them to forget she said that and to only be concerned with making a profit. They'll move into negotiations when the results of the 50-man meeting is publicly announced, telling Kraft to keep Harold informed of where he is. That night, Hollow finally speaks up about how boring everything was because all she could do was sit quietly the entire time. But Kraft thanks her for her help. Hollow understands why he made all the decisions himself, but she wants him to rely on her a bit more, knowing he's feeling the weight of selling Hollow off. Oh, the apples are making me a bit burpy. What can I say? They're delicious. Kraft says he's not that sharp, but Hollow says with practice he can be. However, Kraft isn't tricked that easily, patting Hollow on the head. Hollow says Kraft's soft-heartedness won't change, and Kraft says he won't be so reserved after this deal, which Hollow clocks as a true statement. It's like, oh, he's actually telling the truth on that one. Okay. While resting her head on Kraft's shoulder, she says Kraft would have frozen up, And Kraft touches Hollow's tail to show how much he's grown, only to get headbutted. It's like, yeah, you should have expected that at the moment you touched her tail. Yeah, don't touch a wolf's tail. Especially when it's still attached to a wolf. Asking when Kraft will start panicking. Hollow asks when Kraft will start panicking, to which he'll probably start panicking if she says what she's thinking. And what she's thinking is that she wants Kraft to start panicking. It's like, oh, okay. I won't start panicking until you tell me what you're thinking about. I want you to start panicking. Oh my gosh! That's how I just picture that. The moment Hollow says they should end their journey in Renese, Kraft freaks out, asking if Hollow's joking, but she's not. Kraft reminds Hollow he made a contract to bring her back to her hometown of Yoitsu, and Hollow's reason for why is because of Furu's word of treasure your meeting, which Hollow found profound. Hollow wants to treasure their meeting by partying now in Renese, and Kraft wants to treasure it too by staying together. She has enjoyed the entire trip so far, for all the yelling and laughing, her cunning moments and moments where she acted like a child after being alone for ages. It's not that she's afraid of seeing him die, but of how soft-hearted he is to her, that he accepted her behavior no matter how she acted. Bantering with Kraft is fun for her. So much fun that she wants to eat him up. But if she does, she'll always expect it to be better than the day before. Over time, she sees their fun banter becoming weather-worn and left with faded memories. Hollow's truly scared of their fun times being sped up because of Kraft's kindness. And Kraft, if she's ever seen a tale that continues happily ever after, it's like, She notes Kraft is on the verge of realizing his dream, seeing it as the suitable time to end their tale. It's like, no, but he made that promise to you. And the one thing he doesn't do is go back on a promise. We even established that as a plot point for his character so early on. And he has been sticking to it the entire time. Kraft asks if Hollow has finished reading the book they borrowed from Rigolo, and Hollow answers yes, saying it's exactly as she remembered it. Asking if they should return it before Hollow spills wine on it, Kraft jokes that she might drool on it in her sleep. When she says she wouldn't do that, he jokes about her snoring, and she fires back about hearing what Kraft says in his sleep. Kraft pretends to know what he says, talking about her eating habit, and Hollow says she earns her eating expenses. Which Kraft? we got like back and forth going on here. Like, she's saying in retrospect, because if Crimson had no profit, they wouldn't be sleeping in beds right now. It's like, oh, okay. With topic of food on the table, Kraft asks Hollow if she wants to eat after they return the books to Rigolo, but Hollow says she'll decide later. Kraft lets Harold know they're returning Rigolo's books, and outside, Hollow asks again if the inn will become his shop, saying Kraft should be happier with a joyous occasion on the horizon. Hollow knows that some people are unhappy with the decision made at the 50-man meeting, but Kraft says it's more accurate that they're making arrangements in the shadows. And that led into Kraft and Fru working together, but Kraft being certain he and Fru are not partners. They note that everything has been going favourably, and Hollow says that's because he always runs into problems. Helping Hollow over a puddle, she reminds Kraft that her body is worth 2,020 silver, and brings up the idea to buy wine with the money, which he notes he could buy an incredible amount of choice goods. He's willing to give her as much as she'd like, and Hollow promises to drink so much she pukes before she gets drunk to hide how sullen she is. But Graf knows the atmosphere. It's like, yeah, that previous conversation really soured everything. At Regulo's mansion, the nun explains that Regulo is out, but she still lets Hollow take a book to read because they should be read. Graf reminds Hollow not to be careless with the books while he goes to hang out with the nun and look at the garden through the windows. He says how weird it is to see green and white leaves in the middle of winter, remembering how Regulo said if they put effort into it, the colour can be maintained all year round. When the nun goes to get Kraft a drink, he notices a stone statue on one of Regulo's desks and sees it deteriorating. Is that the correct pronunciation? And Kraft tastes it and realizes it is salt, covering up the realization when the nun returns. The nun confirms Regulo is in a meeting, having been silently called out to it, but realizes she wasn't supposed to mention that fact. Kraft pretends he didn't hear that, asking about the glass, which was patiently constructed section by section over 3 whole years. 3 years to do that? That is a lot of work for a small garden. Even when Regulo was called for work, he gazed upon his garden up until the deadline for work. Kraft notes that scribing is an important job, which the nun agrees with, saying God also says that work is precious, but Regulo's desire to care for his garden might be alright. It's like, you can have a hobby on the side. You don't need to work yourself to death to have a good hobby. Kraft adds that humble dreams are the hardest to make true, which the nun agrees with, finding the times she sees Regulo enjoying his garden to be the most fun. He sees being able to follow a humble dream forever as a blessing before Hollow returns. Asking if Hollow found any good books, she redirects to if Kraft found anything, which he says he had an enlightening talk with the nun. The conversation is interrupted by a loud knocking at the front door as Frill charges in because a rebellion has begun in Renose and they must leave. The entire town being set ablaze and people march in the streets with weapons raised. It's like, oh shoot, they really did like the results of that 50-man meeting. Oh man. Getting close to the end here. We're in the final episode of Spice and Wolf Season 2. So much apple. Frill explains that all the fur traders and dealers all started revolting at once, all because they publicized the outcome of the meeting too quickly. It's like, you really had to screw it up that way? They attacked the workers, trying to put up the sign displaying the outcome, demanding the decision to be revoked. The nun is worried they'll attack Regulo's house, but Frill says they wouldn't, leaving her safely behind while Kraft, Hollow, and Frill go to escape Renese. The demands can't be met because the meeting result is already set, much like the trade they are committed to completing, only if the meeting's decision has been enacted. Kraft asks what the plan is now, and Frill says they need the cash, telling Kraft and Hollow to go get the cash from the derrick company while she readies the boat. The docks are overcrowded with hundreds of people that Frill will have to navigate to prepare the boat. She says they should reunite at the inn. The moment Frill disappears into the crowd, Hollow questions Kraft about what he figured out back at Rigolow's place. But Kraft doesn't want to tell her because if he does, she'll try to stop him. Kraft states that if the deal succeeds, he'll become a successful merchant and Hollow will leave. If it goes bad, Hollow wouldn't stand being sold and would transform into a wolf form, leaving her useless companion behind to return home. The only way Kraft can continue to travel with Hollow is to abandon the deal, but he knows she'll tell him not to throw the big deal away for a small thread of hope. Hollow slaps Kraft for thinking like that, which does it for him, and the journey right on the spot, going to continue the deal, with Hollow promising to remember Kraft as a calculating, cool-headed merchant. We're just one slap, we just end the entire friendship, basically. Reaching the derrick company building, Hollow is crying that if there is a god, why is he letting them suffer so much? Inside, Kraft confirms the total of Lumione gold to be 60 coins, and Hollow makes sure she's getting the special one if they make a profit from the coins. And which he confirms as well. Kraft leaves Hollow behind, but as they close the doors, he wonders if he really made the right choice and why he's not happy. Racing to the inn through the ensuing chaos of the rebellion. It's absolute chaos on the streets. They're in for themselves. At the inn, Kraft catches Frill pocketing a hidden stash of money in her bag. But she explains she found a boat with the price of its goods haggled down because of the Fur Rebellion. The captain is willing to sail even if the military blocks the river for good payment, which they'll have in the gold coins. Frill says the deal is so good it's like a joke, but Kraft asks her about the plan again and confirms she's nervous about it and the possibility of backstabbing. She senses Kraft has another question for her, pulling a butcher's knife on Kraft to make him comply. And yes, I made sure I know what my knife is. I like my knives. It is a butcher knife. I made sure to confirm it with the Wikipedia and stuff like that. Kraft goes to hand the 60 Lumione gold to Frill, only for her to attack him when she closes the gap, but Kraft dodges in time, dropping the gold. Frill admits having her cover blown was a failure on her part, fearing what Kraft meant by losing nerve. Fearing that's what Kraft meant by losing nerve. Kraft reveals he figured out that Frill was really smuggling large amounts of rock salt by shaping the salt into statues. She had an agreement with the church so big people were wondering where the church was getting the money. It's like, okay. Then the Fallout franchise happened. Most likely caused by the cancellation of the Northern Expedition, combined with the church doing some smuggling and spending the money they had. The church gained more power. Ferrell made a deal with the bishop to buy up all the fur in Renose before anyone else can, which Craft figures is because her skills are beyond ordinary. There's no way a plan could be set into motion so fast, meaning she already had one in motion. Because by the furs being cash only, the church could buy it all with ease. She was nervous, not about the business she and Kraft were doing, but that the church had found patrons and planned to cut Ferrell out of the deal. Ferrell asks if Kraft knows why she proposed the plan to him of all people, and Kraft answers that he's her guarantee against harm. Before she was forcefully parted from the church, Ferrell was under their protection, and once out of the scheme, she wanted to disrupt it, which is why she chose Kraft, a gilded traveling merchant, while making it harder for the church to silence her. Asking what Kraft will do next, he reaches for the money, but Ferrell thinks he's going for the butcher's knife and pulls out a dagger to stab him in the head, only to get pinned by Kraft against some crates after he dodges. Little did you know, merchants have to be trained in the art of fighting as well, even back in the day. Seeing Ferrell wanting money so badly that she's willing to kill, Kraft explains he changed his mind from wanting money to not wanting it anymore. Kraft pulls on Ferrell's robes to choke her, explaining that she had killed and hid him. And Kraft wouldn't be found until the trade was done and the church wouldn't suspect any internal quarrel. He adds on other possibilities that Ferrell would have run away with the money after killing him or used whatever is in her bag. Pondering if Ferrell's bag of money is equal or more than the amount Kraft brought with him, he speculates that Ferrell was planning on buying all the furs and raising the stakes so high that the church put everything into stopping them. Letting Ferrell go, she talks about the aristocrat that bought her, how she watched him fuss over making so much money, quoting Harold. She thinks that Kraft sees her as a sad creature for chasing the desire of being rich, only to elbow Kraft in the face and pin him at knife point with the butcher's knife, whispering in his ear why she chose the pursuit of money. They both smile about her reason why, before she knocks him out with the handle of the butcher's knife. So at least Kraft didn't get killed here. Could just kill him off and be like, that's it. He's gone. When Kraft comes to, he's met by Corker. He quickly figures out that Kraft's little nap was due to a breakdown of negotiations. He also finds a contract left with him from Ferrell and remembers her reason for pursuing money is hope. Kraft runs back to Hollow, who calls him a fool for potentially going back on the contract, but he says he lost it all. Hollow is angry because she knows it was his dream, which it is, but he's calm right now because multiple merchant dealings left him with a way that could buy Hollow back. She brings up why she is scared again, clocking Kraft in the face, But even doing so, Kraft explains Furua is trying to complete an insane deal, and he wants Hollow to get them out of the city using her wolf form, announcing he loves her. Huh. So, what happens now? Asking if he knows anything about her, Kraft says he doesn't, but he can say one thing, and that is not by wishing at all, it won't be fulfilled. Saying he should learn from Fruel's knowing that the appeal of pursuing... saying he should learn from Fruel's knowing of the appeal of pursuing money, Kraft bends down to pick up the wheat, and Hollow starts crying and calls him a fool again. Kraft wants him and Hollow to have a smiling farewell when the time comes, knowing it won't be an endless journey, and asks why Hollow is being so pessimistic. And it's because, to her, he likes her like that. Hollow says Kraft ruined her plans again, and that he has to take responsibility for what happens next. Since he defied her foolishness with everything he had, she'll go along with his, but she doesn't want Kraft to be a worthless merchant. Kraft says Hollow's kindness is also scary, and kisses her, but the moment is understated by Hollow asking how they're going to get back what Fruel stole. However, Kraft is more concerned about getting back Hollow's resolve, to which she calls him a fool, and that it'd be troublesome if she fell in love with him and laughs. The two walk out into the ruins of Renese, hand in hand as the bells ring, smiling at each other. Rilo makes it safely back to his house, and the barmaid is bunkering down at the pub with some merchants, while the bishop looks out over the city. Kraft and Hollow go to the docks, seemingly planning to take a boat out of Renese. And much like this apple, which I got pretty clean on this one. That is the end. Wait, I am finished with Spice of Wolf Season 2. Yes, it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger of if they're going to take a boat or what. It's a pretty good... This is a good story, actually. It does a good job of... presenting, like, the... It does a good job with the topics of, like, medieval England, or wherever this story is set. It is interesting how we get... In season 1 we had, like, the, like, sex... We had a bit of sexism going on, which would have been quite rampant back then, but obviously the idea wasn't to really highlight that stuff. And also, human trading. Like, it's interesting that Season 2 focused a lot more on Hollow and, like, business involving Hollow as a person. I'm curious as to why that was the focus, because it doesn't work like that. Like, not every business deal has to end up focusing on a single person. And I wonder if that's just what they wanted to go with for Season 2. And we never got a Season 3 of the original Spice of Wolf, but we did get a reboot, of which I won't be starting next week, but I'll be starting the week after. So I hope you guys are looking forward to seeing that when that comes around. But for now, Links will be in the description to both the channels and to Twitch for you guys to go check out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding. A ding. I'm Psycrafter. Psycrafter out.